Good day. Welcome to our program, My Journey to the Top. It's a program that really focuses on the journey of great leaders who are doing phenomenal things on the continent and the rest of the world. So really wishing you happy New Year 2025, great success and achievement. And we believe strongly that we will use this platform to prepare leaders and aspiring leaders to be ready. And with us today, we have the honor of having one seasoned leader who's been doing tremendous work across the globe, based in South Africa. And for me, from the first time where we connected up until today, I'm always blown away and inspired. So permits me to introduce Mpho Matsitse. It's an honor to have you with us, and he's a chief industry officer at Gijima. And he has occupies several positions across big multinational, such as BCX, SAP, worked for ABSA, Momentum, to name a few. So for us, we are really honored to have you today and really have a conversation and learn from Mpho, to learn few tips and practical wisdom that took him to get to the top, because there are times where it requires a lot of work to get to the top, but there's another caveat, which is to stay at the top. And what has been tremendous looking through his career is at the top, and he stay at the top, and even for many more years. So welcome to our program, Mpho.
Thank you very much, Benny. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, quite honored to have you. And for me, really having someone like you, I really wanted us to kick off a bit different, especially that the coincidence of our program is we're really at the beginning of the year. And I believe strongly that when you start, it helps you, it transcends for the rest of the year. So maybe I just want you to take us through this period. Normally, as a leader, how do you normally start your year? What are those things that goes through your mind in terms of other people, they call it vision board. Other people, they call it New Year resolution, but they forget it's the second week of Jan. But I think I really thought a lot that it would be quite important just for us to learn from you as a leader. How do you start the year so that you stay relevant through the year and you are able to achieve the goals that you set for the year?
Okay. So look, I'm very deliberate about how I start my year, Benny. Okay. So I do planning. It's not a vision board, but it's a planning day that I have with my spouse. So first thing I do is I keep it very simple. So I look at what are the things that we did last year that we should keep doing. What are the things last year that we should stop doing that didn't yield any really positive results? And what are those things this year that we should start doing? Right? I'm very intentional. I never set more than 3 goals for the year, because beyond that, you are, for me personally, you're really reaching for something that becomes very impossible, and it puts a lot of pressure on you. So my goals, I try to keep them as simple as possible to 3 goals for the year. 1 financially related, 1 to do with the spirit, body, and mind, and 1 to look at how do we progress the people around us and the community economies in which we work in. So I'm very deliberate about how I set my goals for the year. I then do my calendar. So I put in every public holiday that we have in South Africa so as to plan which days make sense for me to be off. Wow. Because of the role that I play in corporate, it's not easy for me to take a week or 2 weeks off. So what I try to do, I always try to take the last Friday of the quarter, or any Friday or day that will be in between a public holiday. So for example, I know there is a holiday on Good Friday, the 18th of April. There'll be a holiday on the 21st. So my vacation period will be during those few days, right? The last one being the Monday, I think it's Freedom Day. It will be recognized on Monday, the 28th. Then there's a holiday on the 1st of May. So I'll take just the day in between, which gives me the week. So I plan that out. And then I look at the school calendar. So I'm very deliberate about spending time with my kids.
Wow.
So that also has to be integrated into which sports events or which cultural events I'm going to be able to make and which ones I'm not, because at least it's sent out for the first term or 2 terms upfront. So I know what to prepare. So I'm very intentional about how I prepare for my year. And then, Benny, I catch up on what is changing in the world, right? You know, Donald Trump's presidency has got a lot of people on edge at the moment.
Yes.
Mozambique seems to be stabilizing in terms of presidential elections, but, you know, a bit of unsettlement in terms of the other candidate naming himself president of the people.
Yes.
So these are worldly events that affect how we do business and where we invest. So I'm very deliberate about keeping up onto Africa events, continent events, South Africa events, as well as the world that may affect us.
Wow.
And then I look at changing trends. This morning I was reading an article that's speaking about the careers of the future, which I found very interesting. First one being AI specialists that are sought after heavily. They've now trumped cybersecurity engineers,
Wow.
followed by digital transformation specialists or consultants, followed by cybersecurity engineers. So literally in the last 8 to 10 months, it's radically changed, right?
Yes.
And we're kicking off the year with the world reporting some of these key things to say this is where the world is going. And the challenge then being, as organizations and, including my organizations, myself, how do we then work with these trends in order to try and make some key decisions that will affect our future? Where I am now, it's a big organization. Celebrating 30 years this year, so we're looking forward to that.
Wow.
That is an amazing milestone that the organization's managed to achieve. So I'm really, really excited and amped up for the next 30 years.
Wow.
And how do we sustain the growth of the organization beyond what we could have imagined as boundaries? So that's how I'd kick off my year.
Well, I think one thing that I love the most is you being deliberate, because you repeated it, and it's quite crucial. Planning, being deliberate, and what really inspires me the most is it's throughout your career and throughout your life that you've been deliberate,
yes.
And which we will unpack. And as we're still discussing about the beginning of the year, and I want us to use this platform to inspire current leaders and aspiring leaders, especially those who have experienced setbacks last year, those who didn't achieve their goals, and maybe also we're facing a lot of unemployment at the moment in country. You as a leader and someone is starting the year, what are these things that you can share with them in order for them to have a great and positive outlook to 2025?
Yeah. So look, I'm going to sound like a broken record.
Yeah.
But it's all about mindset. It's about choice.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. And I know one will tell you, but there's no way, right? So I play golf. For those people that play golf, we know once you've played a hole, good or bad, you can't change it.
Wow.
Okay. There's another 4 ball behind you, so you can't go back and say, no, we want to replay the hole. But that's life.
Yeah.
Right? Or spilled milk, as one would say. You can't really change the outcome of a past event. You can only change the outcomes of present and future events. Right? The scary thing that I was taught as well, and this is now through some of the engagements with my mentors that I've had over the years, is that what you did in the last 10 years and the preparation that you put in for the time, you are now reaping. Yeah. And I said, wait, that can't be, and it's the truth. Right?
Yeah.
So in your 20s, what you do during your 20s, you will reap in your 30s, and so on and so on.
100%.
So what I would encourage one to do is, there are lessons to be learned in what didn't go well in the previous year. And what you need to be deliberate about is be accountable for what was your role in your sacrifice. Right? So if you lost a business, if you didn't make enough money, if you got kicked out of a school, what was your role in that setback?
Correct.
And what lesson is there to be learned in that setback? And then how do you then apply the lesson learned in order to ensure this year is not a repeat of last year? Because if you continue doing the same thing, you cannot have a different result. It's insanity. You will keep having the same result. Right? I would encourage people to spend a lot of time, at least during the first quarter of the year, investing in themselves.
Wow.
All right. So spend time meditating on some of the key things that you believe you should be accomplishing. Spend time to understand, given the current skill set that you have, how do you augment it to add on to your skill set? There's a lot of free courses online, LinkedIn, and a couple of other institutions. It doesn't always have to be academic.
Correct.
All right. There are a lot of free books, apps. Amazon has got an app. There's Kindle. There's quite a few. All right. So invest in a single book.
Wow.
And if I'd encourage you to invest in a book that I've invested in, it's done a lot for me throughout my career, is David Carnage. He's got a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Wow.
Right? And really talks about the psychology of building the kind of mindset that moves you forward.
Wow.
Okay. So a typical example, you and I can go to India or any other place in the world and say, I don't know, South Africa. We find that a lot of the people in South Africa are not wearing shoes. Okay. And you could be like, hey, Mpho, this is a very different place. And I could say to you, but Benny, they're not wearing shoes. They don't seem to be as modernized as we are. This doesn't look good for us. Maybe this is not where we should be spending our time.
100%, yeah.
And you could say, but Mpho, if they're not wearing shoes, it's an opportunity for us to sell shoes.
Opportunity.
Right? It's an opportunity for us to make the kind of change that would just not only benefit us, but benefit the community as well.
100%.
It's your outlook on life.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
People see you the way you see yourself.
Wow.
So if you wake up in the morning, I don't know if you've ever watched a movie called I'm Beautiful.
Yes.
Lady bangs her head, believes it wholeheartedly that she is the most beautiful woman on the earth. She is treated in kind.
Wow.
All right. And that's how the world sees you. So I'd say to someone that is feeling a little bit discouraged today, there's no amount of motivational talk that's going to change your state of being.
100%.
It's you.
Wow.
If you decide that, yes, I will change it, you will see the ripple effect of that change. Wow. You certainly will.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And this is the type of message that we want to hear and leaders want to hear. Really love the accountability part, introspection, and positive outlook. But most importantly, really venturing into opportunity. As you mentioned India, because if you want to see opportunity, you definitely see it. So really love this practical. And for us, we really want our listeners, and not only our listener, we really want to experience 2025 to be a greater year for everyone. And I know that these nuggets of wisdom and practical example, because they've been working for you. That's what's amazing. Anybody, I think, sometimes insanity is for you to reinvent the wheel, right?
True, Benny, true. And I think it's much harder for a person going through really difficult circumstances. And I'll give you an example of what I've experienced myself, right?
Wow.
When you sleep hungry because there's no food and your mom has done everything in her power to try and feed you, but it was not possible.
Wow.
And you wake up in the morning and you are going to school hungry, there's not much positivity to look for there or opportunity to look for.
Yeah.
Right? In the same breath, wallowing away at the fact that you don't have much is not going to help you.
Correct.
All right. So what you should look for is opportunities on how you are going to eat. So for example, I know that it's Valentine's Day, for example, at school. Usually the teachers would have an event in the staff room.
Correct.
Right? So what I would do is wait until break is over and go help out in the staff room to clear up the dirty plates and the food that was not eaten. And then I'd ask the ladies that I'm helping in the cleaning in the kitchen to say, can I have something to eat? Because I haven't had food that day.
Wow.
Because the school I went to, we didn't have a feeding scheme. Right?
Wow.
And that's how I'd eat. So for that day, that's how I ate.
Wow.
And I'd pack some of it away in a plastic and bring it home so that we
everyone
could eat. Yes,
everyone
right.
eat. Wow.
And that's the difference in outlook is Where are you seeing the opportunity? And yes, it's not every school that would have a Valentine's Day event where they'd celebrate, etc. But it lasted me throughout my life, Benny. When I was at KPMG, I had enough money to get me to work. So during lunch, I couldn't eat. So what I sought to do is to be one of the best graduates in the program, because through that you get invited to certain events that partners would have, that clients would have, and guess what? There is food there.
Wow.
All right. I'm a firm believer in God, and God provides.
Yes.
So I remember that day vividly because I hadn't eaten the night before and I was very hungry that day. I got invited to a partner event.
Wow.
I got to eat there, and guess what? The next day was payday.
Wow.
Right?
I love it. That's incredible.
So I got to eat.
Wow.
Right? So that's what I'm saying. Even in the most dire circumstances, it's a choice and mindset on how you're going to face that adversity, and how are you then going to show up.
Wow.
Right? And that's how life then responds to you.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I would encourage people to do, to say, yes, it's tough. I'm not saying ignore your reality and become on a positive spree. If you've ever watched Jim Carrey's Yes Man.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying be very deliberate about your mindset.
Wow.
Be very careful about your thoughts. Be very kind and mindful about what you are going through in your circumstance. And reach to find that mindset that helps you progress from the area which you are.
Wow.
And you'll find that you quickly progress.
I love it. I'm more excited. I love it. So I think with that, it gives us a good opportunity to delve into your background.
Yeah.
So may you just take us through, because I think I'm excited, and I know the listener are also excited, just for us to understand the upbringing, because there are times where people are able to focus on the fruits, but little are the many who are focusing on the roots and the seed. So I think for us, and that's the essence of the journey. It's really for us to have a glimpse of your upbringing and that particular journey, and just to understand some of the key turning points in your life and your journey.
Okay. So I'm one of 3 kids. I'm the eldest. I'm blessed to have an amazing mom who's my hero.
Wow.
So my mother raised us very well. She was married to my father, but I don't have a relationship with my father, and I never quite had one. All right. And my mom instilled one thing in us, and that's love.
Wow.
Between our siblings and myself, never fight, always have each other's backs. And she really, really believed, I think maybe it's because of being a teacher,
Yes.
that academics is really your route to success,
Wow.
to be going beyond. So my mom was always very deliberate about saying to us that, guys, I have a college certification for teaching. I am an educator. The best that I can provide for you is to try and pay for academic fees.
Wow.
And put food on the table when I can. But I need you guys to take that opportunity and run with it.
Wow.
So between my siblings and myself, we've always been top achievers.
Wow.
We were never cool in school. We were never popular. We were focused on being first, one of 3 in the grade every year.
Wow.
And the competition wasn't so much amongst ourselves and our peers at the time, was for us, right, as individuals, and competing amongst the 3 of us to say, who's going to get the most trophies this year?
Wow.
So I grew up basically in a home that encouraged hard work.
Wow.
That did not take no for an answer. That did not believe that you can't do it. That really despised laziness.
Wow.
Right? My mom would never allow us to not do our chores for whatever reason. We got hidings. So
proper education.
I still remember, hidings that we got for burning rice. If we didn't wash the dishes, for example, she would not cook, because what is she going to dish up?
Correct.
So very strict home, but it was a good foundation for me as an individual, and to start recognizing some of the key things. I think where I really fell in love with leadership, and where I realized that I have a purpose and I have a role to play, and very much related to my name, is when it was a particular fun day at school. It was 2 Rand to wear civvies.
Wow.
We didn't have 2 Rand. and my mom gave us 4 rand each. So I gave my brother the extra 4 rand so that he could wear CVs and be able to buy the tuck shop. And I went to school in the uniform, and I took lunch that day.
Wow.
I had lunch.
Wow.
Because I realized then that my joy comes from seeing him happy.
Wow.
My joy comes from serving others. Right? And I used to watch a show called Generations. I think most South African families,
Yes.
8 o'clock was Generations time. and we'd watch it. But, seeing the Moroka family, seeing the advertising agency that they had, called it Ezweni later, for me, it was the makings of what would be a dream to be in the corporate space.
Wow.
As a leader in corporate. I fell in love with it then. I've always aspired to it. Anyone who knows me well enough will tell you Mpho's dream is to be a CEO. And anyone who's known me long enough will tell you it hasn't changed.
Wow. He's working towards that.
He's keen on that. He's working towards
Wow.
it. I'm very intentional and very deliberate about it because I then, in choosing my study path, again, I actually researched what was big in the world at the time. So this was 2004. I'm in grade 10. And business analysis was big. Management consulting agencies such as McKinsey, BCG, etc. were popping up. Strategy was a big focus in the world at the time. And it was really just before the 2007, 2008 financial crisis. Right? So the world was still very optimistic about the direction that it's taken to grow the global economy. I've always been interested in that. So in choosing what I'm going to then study, it's always been focused on that mindset. Started my career at KPMG in 2011, a 23-year-old, starting out as a junior analyst, putting my hand up for everything.
For everything, exactly.
And I remember I was interviewed by a gentleman by the name of Frank Rizzio. I think he still works at Discovery, if I'm not mistaken, as an executive. And Frank, the one afternoon, sees me at my desk. It's 20 to 5. We knock off at 4:30. I'm the only grad in the office, and he says, "Hey, Mpho, it's time to go home. Why are you not going home?" Or you didn't work during the day. You were talking so much. You didn't do work. Why are you not going home?
You're catching up with your work.
Catching up. And I remember saying to Frank, I said, "Frank, tomorrow we've got a particular client's audit. I'm going through last year's audit file to understand which tests we completed, which ones we didn't. What was the result, and what should we be looking out for this year?"
Oh.
And he was like, "Oh, okay, that's different.
Wow.
Carry on."
Wow.
Carry on, right?
Wow.
And I used to stay at KPMG, talk very late, 8:30, 9 o'clock, sometimes even 10, doing additional work to understand what it is that we do. Why do we do it? How does it add value to the client? How does it help the client? And understanding a little bit better what my role is in helping ensure that the audit is as valuable to the business as is to the client.
Yeah.
That's always been my trajectory. So throughout my career, I've been very deliberate about where I move to and what I do. Today, being the Chief Industries Officer at Gijima, there is a particular mandate that I am responsible for, and I am going to do everything in my power to execute it to the best of my ability. And that's just always been my background.
Wow.
As a person, I am very laid back. So my weekends where I'm not preparing for the next week or I don't have work, I try squeezing a round of golf.
Wow.
I go to church. It's good to reflect in church and see other believers. I spend as much time as I can with my family.
Wow.
It's good to learn how each one is pursuing their dreams.
Yeah.
I'm very intentional about friendship. Right? So I do see my friends and I call them often.
Wow.
I don't believe anyone is that busy.
Yes. No.
I mean,
yeah.
we are all busy. So we have to make the time. So I'm very intentional about keeping up with how my friends are doing, how the kids are doing, how the family is growing, what they're looking to invest in, and what can I do to help. Even if it's just an introduction to Benny, that would be good for them. So that's me in a nutshell.
Well, I love it because the concept of friendship it's quite intriguing, especially at the top, because everybody will assume that 24 hours, it's not enough for,
Yes.
for an executive. So,
Yeah, no, true.
but now when you are so intentional about friendship, what is it that helps you in that space? Because there are people who can give excuses, especially at the top of friendship, and there are many says that goes that it's lonely at the top. So how do you play? How do you manage friendship, and what is the role that friendship plays
Sure.
in your life?
A very big role, Benny. So you asked the how. I manage it through structure. I'm very structured about my time. So I'm up at 4:45, sometimes 5:30, but 4:45. I then spend my day mostly in the morning, praying, reflecting on the word. I've got a book by John C. Maxwell, which speaks about leadership, and it takes Bible verses from some of the biggest leaders we've had in the Bible and reflects it into messaging of what the modern leader should be doing. So I spend some time with that book. I then hit the gym, and then I prepare for my day. And then every day at 12 o'clock, between 12 and 1, I block that for lunch. That's my time to go through emails. That's my time to make calls. I call my mom every day. I call my friends every day. I call my wife to check up on her day. And I try in my day at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, so that I can have enough time to eat, see my kids before they go to sleep, before I prepare for the next day. Right? So during that structure, in my month, I plan when I'm seeing certain friends.
Wow.
Also prioritizing those that are going through a tough time, and also prioritizing those that may not need a physical seating, but at least a phone call.
A phone call, yeah.
Friendship is a big one for me because I've got a best friend. Him and I have been best friends since 93. 30 years. 30 years friends. He's an amazing guy. He keeps me grounded a lot. He speaks to who I am, and he knows me so well. He's able to say, this is unnecessary. the tantrum you're throwing is unnecessary, because you know exactly what needs to be done. Friendship for me is very important. As you said, it's lonely at the top.
Yeah.
It is for us to reflect on who we truly are. Our playful selves, what our beliefs are, our purpose in the world.
Yeah.
And it's very key for someone to recognize that in you as well. In that book that I told you about, How to Win Friends and Influence People by David Carnage, in chapter 3, I think, if I still get it right, he talks about how the feeling of feeling important is more important or second only to breathing.
I think you're speaking very fast. So that everybody, please say it again.
Say it again, right? So the feeling of feeling important, the feeling of feeling like a VIP is second only to breathing.
Wow.
That's how much people
value
it.
Wow.
That's why in every certain conversation when you're speaking to someone and you're saying, this weekend, the weather wasn't good, so we couldn't go swimming. And they say, and they relate a experience they have gone through.
Yes.
They're not sharing in your experience, they're relating to their
experience. Yes.
Which in a way takes away from what you were trying to say. But the word I, in about 1,500 conversations, was noted 3,000 times in the first 15 minutes of each conversation.
Wow.
So people like feeling important. It matters to them. And what I've learned as a leader is it's not so much about what you say, but the purpose that you have in life in serving others is how you make them feel, how you help them believe in themselves. Is more important than the things you say and more important than the things you do.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm very intentional about that when one is a good friend, I think the good book says it well. I've quoted so many times, people think I'm a preacher, but I'm not. I'm really not. But, they say, one gains a brother in friendship.
Yes.
So for me, it's really been one of the key aspects in my life that I've decided to be intentional about. Because if we fast forward 20, 30 years from now, you are retired, your kids have their own lives, your spouse has their own life as well, because they're tired of you after 30 years.
After 30 years.
What's left is friendship.
Correct.
So if you don't cultivate
Cultivate
it,
it. Mm.
you don't nurture it, just like any other relationship, it will die out.
Wow.
And hence, sometimes you have people that are very lonely
Wow.
because they don't have the power of friendship. I've got a very small circle. I don't have a lot of friends, but the few friends that I've got are very good to me. They matter to me,
Wow.
and I'm very intentional about maintaining those relationships.
I love it. I really, because at the end of the day, what is achievement and success without
If you
people
can't
to share it with? I think that's really how it can relate to what you're saying, because it's highly critical. And now, coming into purpose, how do you define it, and how does it play into your life and your journey?
Your purpose it's what drives me, right? I think that's one of the first discoveries that I sought to focus on in being a professional and in life in general. I think where I started, Benny, is I've composed a model. I don't quite have a name for it. I just call it the 4 Ps.
Yeah.
But personality type is very important. You need to understand the kind of person you are. And personality types comes into 4 categories. You're either a choleric, you're either a sanguine, melancholic, or you are a phlegmatic.
Yeah, peaceful, phlegmatic, yes.
There we go. So it's important to understand what is your dominant personality type. You have all 4, but there's one that's more dominant than others.
Yeah.
And you need to understand it, which one is dominant in a comfortable, good setting, and which one is dominant in a setting of conflict.
Correct.
Right? That sort of paints the picture of the kind of person you are, what you respond to, what resonates with you, what works with you. I'm a very strong choleric. So I'm the kind of person, if you're going to speak to me, you need to get to the point very quickly, because I am naturally impatient.
Wow.
Right? So I have to learn to exercise patience, and the person engaging me needs to learn to get to the point rather quickly in order to retain my attention.
Wow.
It's key to understand that, and I'll get to why. Second thing is you need to understand, what are you passionate about? Now, passion is something that you can wake up every day and do for free. So you need to be very deliberate about that, because someone will say to you, I'm very passionate about singing.
Can you sing for free?
Okay, can you sing for free for the rest of your life every day? Can you wake up every day and say, this is definitely it? So be very clear about what your passions are. You have 3 at best. More than that, you really don't know what your passion is. Correct. So you have 3 at best, but there's one that really resonates with you more than anything.
Yeah.
And passion is not career, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
Passion is that thing that you are willing to do every day.
No matter what.
For free, no matter what.
Yeah.
You enjoy it that much. Okay. The third thing then is you need to then understand the path that you then would follow. Right? And that path is, if that is your personality type, you're a very strong choleric or you're very strong melancholic, you have a passion for solving very complex mathematical problems, you actually enjoy puzzles, Sudoku, etc., your path needs to be one that is related to research, development, and scientific avenues.
Wow.
Because you're going to spend your time daily solving very complex mathematical problems in a melancholic state where no one's going to be asking you questions or asking you to stand on stage or asking you to sell anything.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is what a choleric or a sanguine person may do, because they enjoy social engagement.
100%.
And then that ultimately determines the last P, which is your purpose.
Wow.
Because then you wake up every day and you are clear that my purpose in life is to be, in my case, an effective leader adding value to all the organizations that I work with.
Wow.
That I could do what I do every day for free. Don't tell my boss this. I love what I do.
Wow.
When the going gets tough, when it's late nights, when it's working on a Sunday, or it's meetings on an early Saturday morning, I don't mind getting up.
Wow.
I thrive on what I do.
Wow.
And that is how one would go about determining their purpose. First, find that personality type.
Yeah.
Find that passion. Understand what your path in life would be. determine your purpose.
Wow.
And then pursue it with everything you've got.
That's absolutely amazing, and I've discussed this with you, which we will have time to elaborate more on your strategy to mentorship, how you approach it. But before we get to that, one of the thing that's the element that is critical, it's to be able to incorporate all the 4 Ps into one's career. So now when someone, they are into the journey and they are aspiring to be at the top, how can they incorporate all these elements into a career?
Sure.
Based on your experience. So
Yeah.
I think maybe you can take us through how you've done it, because I think especially the point where you say that you love your job, and I know that your job is very complex. It's very complex because there's a lot of tech, there's a lot of analytical thinking, decision making, but that comes more with providing solutions to the tech space. So it's very complex. But now, how did you incorporate all these factors and find your place and your space in what you do and loving it every day?
So I think the difficult part is that we don't always have the luxury to pursue our passions, you know, because sometimes they're not in alignment with what is financially more viable for us
Correct.
at the time. You know. Some of us have to work first to provide and then study later. Others have the opportunity to study and then work. Some others really don't have the luxury of choice. It's circumstances that they've been dealt and they find themselves where they are today. So I'll answer the question in 2 parts. One, I'm going to speak to the person that already has a career and is not too sure whether it's their passion or not.
Yeah.
And a person who's starting out, which for me is a different path altogether. A person who's already in a particular role and has had a good career for the last 10, 15 years, even 20, and they're finding themselves not joyful about waking up each morning because this is not what they believe their purpose to be on a daily basis. You need to understand what would it take to pursue your purpose. Because if you don't, you are sacrificing essentially who you are
for a reward.
Yes, for a reward that's not going to be worth it in the end.
Yes.
So by the time you retire, by the time you stop working, you actually feel worse.
Correct.
All right. So you need to understand how much is it worth, and I'd say it's worth a lot. So there's no time to waste. Yeah. You've already wasted
a lot
a lot
of
right.
time.
But you can't also disregard your previous investment in where you are today because it got you to where you are today.
Correct. Yeah.
And so I'd say, is it possible for you to do your passion as a hobby? All right.
That's a good question.
Is it possible to do your passion as a hobby? Because it will still give you the reward that need to be recognized, fulfillment, even if you did it as a hobby. Remember, I said you are willing to do it every day for free.
For free, yes.
And if that's the case, I would encourage that as a first avenue. Second, I'd say, is it possible for you now at the juncture where you are with all the responsibilities and pressures you have to change your career? If it then so means that. So if I am a cleaner and I have an aspiration to be a videographer, does it make sense to leave my job right now?
Wow.
All right. And if not, build a path towards your last day.
Yeah.
All right. So a very, very smart CEO I once had a chat with back in the day. He once said to me, the day you walk into a role, you must know which day you walk out. All right. And that's very important. That's what Madisa said to me. So it's very important to then decide when is your last day at this job.
Wow.
To pursue that passion. And you need to then do everything in between to gear yourself up to not suffer severe financial loss and a severe loss in what you've built to date to try and add and complement on top of it.
Oh.
I'd always encourage complementing what is already there as opposed to a complete change.
Correct.
Right? And the last thing that I would then advise is that seek advice and engagement from people that are doing that role or that passion or living that purpose today. Because they'll give you insights into what the hardships were, what's not going to work. So, for example, if we take Mpho, the guy who's been in tech for 15 years or so, and now he wants to become a medical doctor. That's another 10 years of study, plus.
Wow.
To have a conversation with a surgeon who possibly maybe took him 15 years before he could even specialize, does it make then sense for me to start practicing comfortably in my 60s?
Wow.
You get what I'm saying? Or can I volunteer at a hospital with some medical qualification or ability to help in some way on the weekends?
Wow.
Because I'm still doing it, still medicine, still engaging. I may not be a medical doctor, but I'm able to help out and engage and get that fulfillment while continuing with what I've built as a professional career to date.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So that maybe addresses someone that's already there. An individual who's starting out, I'd say this is a question you should have asked yourself before you picked what you're studying.
Wow, that's a big one.
Right?
That's a big
This
one.
is a conversation you should ask yourself before you picked what you're studying. What are you actually purposed with on this earth? Right? If you've never seen him, I would encourage you, YouTube, Miles Monroe.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Yeah, right? He's got a sermon on purpose.
Purpose, yes.
Miles Monroe.
Yeah.
Watch him. My best friend put me on that. And it's really reaffirmed what I knew.
It has changed
but
my
also,
life.
yeah, it changed my life a lot, Benny.
Yeah.
So I'd say you need to ask yourself this question very quickly. You need to answer it very quickly. But be very deliberate and mindful in how you answer it. Because it will determine what your whole life is then going to be.
Wow.
As we speak, a very close family member of mine is going through this exact thing. They've been working for 3 years. They're successful. They have studied, but they are now looking to study. And I said, before you pick that, can we please just understand what the next 30 years for you looks like?
Wow.
It's not about the next 3 years, 5 years. It's about the next 30 years. Are you comfortable that when you look back, you'll be proud of your lifetime and the things you would achieve because you would have been living your purpose?
Wow.
So let's first determine that. And that will determine your passion. That will determine the path you need to take. That will be embedded and based on the personality type that you are. So that every day feels like a great day for you because you are doing what you love. Right? So it's very important for a person starting out to then answer that question and then pursue their next. Whether that is studying further, whether that's that new job, whether there's no time to waste. Life doesn't have a redo.
Yes.
Right? I see, funny enough, in the conversation I just had before this one, is people do not believe in the things you believe in, Benny.
Yes.
Right? And to put into context, Steve Harvey said it very well. He said, the vision that God showed you for your life, where you see yourself on stage, or whether you see yourself in a theater operating on someone, or whether you see yourself at a corporate table, that little vision, that trailer, the movie trailer of your life, he showed it only to you.
Yeah, and most of the time you were alone.
Yes, and most of the time you are alone. So when you are trying to explain to your parent, to your brother or sister, or to even your friends, that guys, I want to become an astronaut, and they laugh or they mock you or they say that's unrealistic. Remember, the trailer you were showed for your life was shown to you alone.
Correct.
Only you know that dream. So pursue it in the most diligent and the most persistent way you can.
Wow.
Because guess what? Once you've made it, who are the first people to say, wow, we always knew you could do it. We're so proud of you.
The majority.
How do we do what you did?
Yeah.
It's the majority that were discouraging you.
Wow.
Right? So I think people need to get out of that mindset of getting validation from others. It's good to get advice.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you always have to take it.
Correct.
Validation of others on a dream that only you know, on a vision only you were shown, doesn't make any sense.
Wow.
All right?
Wow.
The stamp of approval needs to come from you.
Yes.
And, it's said it so many times, when they say build it, they will come. I don't know who said that, but it just stayed with me. And I was like, wow. But it's true. Once you build it, after everyone believed it can't be done, they will come.
And sometimes they will not even ask who built it.
This is great.
This is great, and they don't know what it took you, the effort and everything. And now, if we and I truly I'm just marveled by what you're saying, because purpose is the essence of life, and operating in that space brings you fulfillment that you will never be able to understand. And we encourage people to follow that path. As you say, validation, it can be good, but it's not the truth. There are times where it's just there to hype you, but there's it's totally void. Now, when we're coming into your career, what are those big milestones? I love the story of KPMG as you started, and then transitioning into SAP, Momentum, SAP, and then BCX up to Gijima, where you are. But what are those aha moments that you had, that you knew that these were like key events that are bringing you into the next step into your career?
Wow, Benny. For me, it's based on really two things. And we want to keep it to two things. One is investing in yourself, and one is being provided opportunity. And let me start with the second one. Opportunity, you've heard the saying, comes to those that are prepared.
What?
All right? And the future only rewards those that are brave and are prepared for. You've heard all the wonderful things. But the truth of the matter is that you need to be able to recognize what opportunity looks like.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in my case, I never had to wait for an opportunity because they just never came.
Wow.
I had to go find them.
Wow.
Every single time.
Wow.
Right? I applied at WITS, I applied at UJ, I applied at UCT. I got turned down by UCT, Rhodes, WITS. I only got accepted at UJ.
Wow.
And I wanted to go to WITS.
Wow.
But they said no. Right? And I think I passed matric really well. I was amongst the top 3 at my school. But I went to UJ and I made it work. And it's one of the best years in my life.
Wow.
But it's because somebody at UJ said approved.
Wow.
Right? When I was at KPMG, I realized working in audit, I had great mentors. I was surrounded by great coaches, from my managers to the partners. Everyone was so well invested in my personal well-being and my professional well-being. There's a gentleman at KPMG, I think he's still there, he's the head of audit now. At the time, he was deputy CEO, Devin Duffield.
Wow.
I'll never forget that man. I was buying a cheese sandwich. I swiped my card, declined. I said, try it again, swiped, declined.
The story of everyone.
I said, it's fine. I'll have just a cool drink. And he said, no, it's fine, put it on my card and I'll swipe for him. He swiped for me. And after that, he said, come sit with me. And we sat together, and he took me through his journey.
Wow.
But he gave me an opportunity to understand what it takes to survive in this firm.
Wow.
And how that little mishap should never define who I ultimately become.
Wow.
So those learnings for me have been opportunity, right? So when I transitioned from audit into management consulting, it was an opportunity. I went, KPMG used to own 2 buildings, Wanuka and Empire. And I was at the Wanuka building, but with the sky bridge across into Empire. I walked on the bridge. I went to the management consulting side. I said, I want to see the management consulting partner. They had an open door policy. I met with the lady and she said, no, I don't do what you're asking me for, strategy, operations, target operations. That's not what we do here. We do tech.
Wow.
But the lady who does that is the partner next door. So I went to her door because that's what I want to specialize in.